Welcome to Mélomani's virtual season. I'm Kim Reighley, flutist and co-artistic director.
I'm Tracy Richardson, harpsichordist and co-artistic director. We miss seeing you in person this season, and we hope you are well. This season, we will offer you a series of 5 free streamed programs.
Each program brings you Mélomani's provocative pairings of early music and contemporary music. They will include Baroque music, solos, duos, music from our living composers, and short interviews with the composers.
We have 3 new CDs of contemporary music to sample for you this season. The first is Ultraviolet, with 5 pieces for the ensemble.
A Hint of Light Remains has 4 duos written for Tracy and me, and Up to the Light has the 4 large-scale pieces written by Mark Hagerty for our ensemble and guests.
Visit our website at mélomanie.org for further information on our programs, to hear the longer composer interviews, and for further information on our CDs.
Each CD comes with a beautiful insert of program notes and special artwork. We hope you'll enjoy our programs this season.
Good evening to everybody. Welcome to this concert. I'm so glad you're here watching that with us. We are going to begin with a performance of one of the movements of Telemann's Paris Quartet in A major. Today, we're going to have a closer look at Icelandic songs, sacred and secular, and it's arranged by Mark Hagerty. And it's part of the new CD that will be coming out this year, Up to the Light. We will also hear the first movement from David Schelat's composition, Just a Regular Child, which is a duo for flute and harpsichord from another new CD, which is called A Hint of Light Remains. And to introduce these pieces, we actually have interviews with David and Mark. Enjoy.
I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be able to interview David Schelat, someone I've worked with and known for many years and admire and respect so much, who has written a piece for Mélomanie called Just a Regular Child. And before we get into that, I mean, talk about a man with many hats. He's the Minister of Music at First and Central Presbyterian Church in Wilmington, Delaware. He teaches at the University of Delaware, fantastic organist, in addition to being a wonderful composer and conductor. And I'd like to welcome David to talk to us about Just a Regular Child.
Thanks, Kim.
So,
great to be here.
I'm always very, very interested about the compositional process. You have been given a job to write a piece for flute and harpsichord, and how that begins. You know, I have the opportunity to see the notes on the page and take it from that point forward, but it's always a curiosity to me how it gets to those notes on the page. So maybe we can start there.
Think about what I want to do and maybe write down a couple melodic ideas that come to me or accompaniment ideas that come to me, something like that. And I just think about it for a while. That's really the first thing that I do. And then I just sit down to write. I usually write at the piano, and because I'm a keyboard player, and it just feels very comfortable using my fingers to figure things out. But once I think about things, and I just start, and you know, it's actually kind of a miraculous process because I don't know where it comes from. That's the miracle, I think. You know, you start with nothing, and then somehow you create this structure and these melodies that somehow work together, and you know, they come from all the music that you've heard in the past, and all the musical ideas that you've come across, and somehow that all gets synthesized into what you're doing today. And it's an amazing process to me that I think is still kind of a miracle. So anyways, I usually write in kind of traditional formal structures. I just kind of like the organization thereof.
And you mentioned to me after you thought about the formal structures that there was a programmatic element that came to surface. Did it come to surface after
it came to surface?
It was done
with the piece, and I realized afterward that I had created this piece that could be considered programmatic. I mean, you can consider it not programmatic too, just as a traditional fast, slow, fast sonata. But I realized it's kind of like, well, I think it was really the last movement, which is the first one I wrote.
No kidding. Which is titled what?
The last one is Full of the Old Nick, which is a phrase that my mother used when she was talking about me when I was kind of just getting into trouble. Not in an evil way, but just being a child, really. Just kind of like being like every child. I think every child does this. But that's what my mother said, and so that's how that title came to being. And then I just realized, okay, well, this middle movement could be, it's kind of like a daydream. And then the first movement is just kind of like kids playing. And so I thought, it sounds like my childhood, and I was just kind of a regular child, so that's how the title came. Fun piece to write.
Being a keyboard player, of course, did you have any special considerations in writing for harpsichord as compared to a piece that you would write with piano or organ? Are there special considerations in that regard?
Harpsichord is kind of a little bit more similar to the organ I mean, it has a similar range, keyboard range, and you approach the keyboards of each instrument a little differently, but there are many, many similarities. There's more similarity between the harpsichord and organ than there is in the harpsichord and the piano, I think, or the organ and the piano. So writing for the harpsichord felt pretty comfortable to me. I kind of understood, I mean, I knew harpsichord music, I'd played a lot of it. Writing for the flute was, I told you earlier, was another story because although, you know, I don't play the flute, I don't play any instruments except for keyboard instruments, and I work with voices all the time, so I really understand how to write for voices, and that's very, very comfortable for me. And I'm always afraid that what I'm writing is going to be too easy for the player. And I'm not worried about writing anything too hard, because you guys can play anything, but I'm always afraid it's too easy. But apparently I hit the right balance with this piece.
You most definitely did. You know, your wonderful musical sense carries the way.
You know, I was there when you recorded it, and I've heard the final CD product, and both your playing and Tracy's playing is just so magnificent, and I couldn't want anything more for this piece. So it's really, it's just beautiful, and thank you. Thanks.
Well, thank you. What a wonderful collaboration, which is what this is all about.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our video concert. I'm Donna Fournier, the gambist with the ensemble, and it's my pleasure to talk with composer Mark Hagerty, longtime friend and supporter of the group. It's good to see you, Mark, even if it is on a little square on my computer screen.
Well, it's nice to see you too, and it's nice to see you in Reykjavik.
Yes, it was really fun to pick out a screen background for this interview. And we're here to celebrate and talk about your new recording and to delve into more detail about one of the pieces on the album. So I'm wondering if you would tell us the story of how the Icelandic Songs project came into being.
Gladly. So we met violinist composer Eva Ingolf when Mélomanie was in Rio de Janeiro at a new music festival. And Eva was there as a violinist composer. And we really only had one evening to talk to her. And Tracy Richardson, co-artistic director, quickly figured out that since Eva was in New York City and we were just outside Philadelphia, we were pretty close together. And then when we all got back home, we should talk about collaboration. So Eva and her husband, Chris, came to a Mélomanie social event, and you were there, Donna. And we were talking about a possible collaboration. Two things came up. One was we were hearing a lot of very noisy crows, which brought up the topic of ravens, which are very important in Icelandic folklore and mythology. And you said, out of the blue, that I should write her a piece based on that. And it turned out that she had sort of an open call for scores. And so I did write that piece, and she's played it. It's called Hrafna Hugsanir, Raven Thoughts. And she's played it all over the world, but particularly in Iceland, where they especially appreciate the raven references. So that was one strand. The other was that Tracy had hoped that there might be Baroque music from Iceland that Mélomanie could play. And it turned out there really wasn't, but there was a very rich body of folk music and traditional music and church music. And somebody suggested, it may have been Eva, why doesn't Mélomanie play some arrangements of these beautiful songs? Turns out her brother is a conductor and musician and had produced an album of lovely music of this sort. But Eva also kind of curated a list for us of interesting pieces of all different kinds. It fell to me to do the arrangements. We offered Eva that opportunity, but it fell to me. So it's something I did in a couple of weeks because it was needed quickly. You know, it was a great pleasure to listen to this stuff and to imagine how it could fit a Baroque ensemble. And it was Mélomanie plus one because originally Eva joined the group and played in the first performance.
My very favorite was this one. The arrangement that you made has the most gorgeous opening of solo flute playing this tune, and it's really, really beautiful. And then it runs throughout the ensemble, just really lovely. No wonder you fell in love with that one too.
It is so heartbreakingly beautiful.
And the sources of some of your other tunes, I'm thinking of one that's really, really folky. You can imagine somebody riding along the fields on their horse. And so what was your decision-making process when you came across this material and then needed to turn it into something else?
It was really like thinking about a suite and needing some different elements. We had a rich array of soulful, religious pieces, such as the one you just played. And I didn't think we wanted 6 songs like that. So fortunately, Ava also directed me to some just performances online of some much more secular and more active sorts of tunes. And we have 2 of those. We also have an anthem, Iceland, Fortunate Isle. I'd love to try the Icelandic, but I'm sure it'll be wrong. I'll do it anyway. They can always edit this out. Ísland farsælda frón. And that is a medieval tune that is sung in parallel open fifths, which is a very ancient sound, but it's a 19th century text. But I think it's the informal anthem of Iceland. And we have a kind of a folky thing about one Olaf Lilyrose riding along the cliffs. And that kind of gets a Haydn-esque treatment, sort of a bouncy thing. Yeah, and but then we have something, there's a very rough-hewn tune about a raven. And it's a very old traditional song, and all the school children in Iceland know it. And that supplied our ender, and that one really has a good energy about it. I wanted to be very respectful of these songs, and I tried to give each one the treatment that it deserved, and that actually involves some stylistic shifts, but I think it holds together.
Are there particular challenges writing for Mélomanie's instrumentation?
It's an ensemble close enough to a standard Baroque ensemble that you have the sound in your ear. Maybe the challenge is how to make it new, how to do something new and different with it. And I think that's true for most of the composers who've approached Mélomanie. They've worked very hard to write both characteristically for the instruments and pull new sounds out of the ensemble. Mm-hmm. Now, when it came to these traditional songs, I wasn't looking for any particularly new effects. I was really trying to just get the richest and fullest and truest statement or realization of these beautiful melodies.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if you could talk about what it's like to be hearing something you've written for the first time out there in the air.
Well, it is one of the big thrills, I have to say. It's not usually surprising in the sense that it sounds the way you think it's going to sound. But you can still be very surprised by the effect that it may have. So Schoenberg got himself in some trouble with his critics by using an expression once, surprising even to me. And I know what he meant, but his critics took it to mean, oh, he doesn't even know what it sounds like when he writes it. That's not true, but you're still surprised. You're still surprised by some expressive thing that you didn't quite anticipate. Schubert was playing the piano part of his piece for mezzo-soprano and male quartet called Ständchen, which I think just means serenade. It's a beautiful piece, very simple. And he was sitting at the piano crying the first time they did it. And somebody said, "Franz, what's wrong?" And he said, "I didn't realize it was so beautiful." So even Franz Schubert could get carried away. So hopefully that's what you experience. But yeah, it's always a thrill. There's always a pleasant surprise about how something works.
Is there anything else you want to mention about your work, your collaborations, your recordings?
Well, let me just say that, you know, it's very exciting and gratifying and an honor to have been included in several of Mélomanie's recordings of new music. And it's going to be, I think, for me, kind of a landmark to have this particular recording, which is called Up to the Light, come out. And it will have these Icelandic pieces on there. To some extent, they may serve as a little bit of relief from three other new style pieces, one of which is Up to the Light, one of which is Trois Rivières, which had been previously recorded by Mélomanie, and one of which is Ultraviolet, which will appear on the CD Ultraviolet. But to have had the opportunity to capture the four larger works that we've done together among probably 8 or 10 things that we've all done together, it's a wonderful thing for us all to share, I think. We've worked on this, we've worked together for so long, and to have something to show for it that I hope we're all proud of is really very sweet.
Congratulations. It's a major accomplishment, and it's been really wonderful having this collaboration and having it come to fruition in this way.
Well, thanks. It's been my pleasure, I can assure you.
This brings us to the conclusion of the program today. We hope that you'll look for our other programs. We have 5 in all this season. If you would like longer versions of the composer interviews, please go to Mélomanie's website and you can listen to the entire length of the different interviews. So that's all. Goodbye for now. Thank you so much for your support and thanks a lot for joining us. Bye.